the two biggest moments of my life and career this year, marrying Melissa Santos and winning the Impact Wrestling title, and both nights I spent in the ER right afterward.
Yeah, that looks good. Okay, we'll make it happen. So,
I look jacked, so.
Of course you look jacked. You're Brian Cage. The shirt says it right there. It's been like 2.5 years since we did an interview.
I feel like it's been longer.
Oh, no, you got to put this thing up to your face, too.
Oh, I thought it's been longer, exactly.
I don't know, about 2.5-ish years. Obviously, a lot's changed for you, though, in that time.
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, I still got this sweet shirt. I had this 2.5 years ago, and probably the same size arms. But
I think you're kind of looking smaller.
No,
I'm just joking. Please don't
impossible.
hurt me.
It's
it is impossible.
Because when was that? Was September 2017 then, huh?
Yeah, something
right?
like that. Yeah,
right around there.
You were at Ronin in South Florida, and you were doing a badass Scott Steiner impression.
That's right. And then just 3 days ago. Yeah, right. 2 days ago, whatever. I teamed up with Scott Steiner. Had my own headpiece and everything. And you know what? Every fan there, like from not only online but there in person, everybody thought it was Scott Steiner when I came out. Like, man, Scott looks exactly the same. So, hats off to me, and I will take those compliments gladly. Everybody thought I was, the old school OG Scott Steiner. That means the world to me.
Yeah. Well, do you think that you in your prime is bigger than Steiner was in his prime?
No, I won't put myself over that hard. No.
Okay.
No. Steiner was a freak, man. He's out of control.
He was the freaks with the peaks.
Yeah. No.
The freaks in my peaks.
He's got me beat. Maybe I'm sure I probably could have leg worked him maybe, but no, he was out of control.
I don't know if there is someone who has the size and agility that you have right now on the planet, at least in wrestling.
Yeah, you know what? I would probably have to agree with you with that. I'm not.
You can put yourself over there.
Yeah, of course. Not only if you don't even want to call me a big guy because I know I'm not 7 feet tall, well then fine. I dare to find anyone that's more of an athletic body guy than Brian Cage, because I don't think you're going to find one.
I mean, what do you need to be considered a quote-unquote big guy then?
I don't know, because everybody says, I'm still super heavyweight. Like, even if I was going to go in UFC or whatever, that's my weight class I'd be, or any sort of competition.
Like, what do you weigh standing here right in front of us right now?
265.
Yeah, then you're a heavyweight.
So, I mean, yeah, I'm not 7'5", but I weigh just as much as, hey, Luchasaurus, you said he's a beast, you mentioned him earlier. Yeah. I weigh more than he does, so...
Yeah, I'm a fairly normal-sized human, and you weigh 80 pounds more than me.
There it is. So
yeah,
so poor Melissa.
I'm not gonna go there, but jeez, wow, you're you probably weigh 2.5 times what Melissa weighs.
Yeah, two and change.
We could do some Steiner math on this one.
Oh
yeah.
You know what? I love that he's been doing Steiner math before every match promo. He somehow Googled it or something, saw that it was so over. So he always, last night, he did a new rendition of it, and he added some numbers with PD and the 6-man tag. And then in Bar Wrestling, he said that his little go-to is he normally has 141 third and 2/3 chance of winning. But then he always puts over that the place smells like weed, and then females' genitalia region. And he says, as Popeye was powered by spinach, he goes, Big Papa Pump is powered by pussy. He goes, your chance of winning go drastically down. He doesn't give a number. It just says
I don't think people quite understand what GMSI means, which I still think is crazy because it's been your thing for so long.
I know, right? I know. My favorite is people go, oh my God, Brian Cage, I'm your biggest fan. I love you. I've seen you for everything. What's GMSI mean? I'm like, well.
Do you make something up for them?
No. I usually, if it's online, I just wait for somebody else to answer for them. I've answered that so many times. I put in the hashtags and this and that. But yes, get my shit in, which is an inside wrestling term for somebody who likes to go out there and just get their shit in. And because I always want to do all these cool, innovative moves, homage to Chris Canyon, everybody go, oh, okay, there's Cage who just wants to get his shit in. He was in developmental, actually, in FCW. I got ribbed before then in the Indies, and then during FCW. And just one day I was like, yeah, that's right, because I'm Mr. Get My Shit In.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey. So that's all I can.
But if someone's looking for you on Twitter, it takes some searching to find you.
It does. I do on any interview, podcast, this and that. They're like, hey, put out your social media. I'm like, yeah, Brian Cage on Facebook, Brian Cage on Instagram, Mr. GMSI _BKJ. Yeah, it sucks, but I got a blue check mark, so I can't change it or I lose it. So
that's so true.
Because Melissa did. She lost it and she had to get it back. So
oh yeah.
So I'm like, yeah. I know, because people always tag at Brian Cage. I'm like, that's not me. Which, makes sense. That'd be the easy one. And then here I am when I'm trying to tag somebody on a post, and you're like, I don't know why, too. How come when you search somebody like in for a post, it's so much harder to find them than we just search for them to find their profile?
Twitter is not as intuitive as Instagram is.
I'm saying either one. If I'm looking for you first on Instagram, I can just pop you up. Say I take a photo of us, I put it in my story, and I'm trying to tag you. It's like, unless you know the exact name, I feel like it's always like the last name that pops up. And I'm like, Max, somebody's like, names like _XO822. I'm like, what is this? What is this? Put your damn name. Like,
I interviewed Jungle Boy recently here in Hollywood because he lives here.
Yep.
And he was talking about how he wants to put on size. But he was saying how difficult it would be to like have the eating regimen that you have. Like you show up to shows like with like a suitcase full of chicken.
Yeah, we just went downstairs and I dropped it off. I was thinking like, should I get a meal in before we eat? Because I'm pretty hungry. But I was like, I don't want to have food on my face like I normally do. It's a full. People realize it's a full-time job. Not only getting the food, prepping the food, then you have to eat the food. It all takes quite a bit of time. And then as soon as you're done cooking, prepping, eating, you're like, now I'm out of food. I got to do it all over again. So, yeah, you definitely have to get into a habitual form, so then it's not so mind-boggling, I guess.
Walk me through from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep.
Well, when we last did in 2017, it was probably a lot more monotonous and a little more regimented.
Okay.
Especially
you weren't a married man then. I don't know if that factors in.
No. It just once I finally gave okay. Melissa was also the first girl I've ever been in that was like almost equally into fitness as I am. So then she had more of appreciation for like the cheats and the foods because she eats pretty healthy and stuff too.
Sure.
Whereas like past relationships, people just would eat, day-to-day, whatever. So like they would get as excited, like, let's go eat this place. Like they weren't as much of a foodie as I was. So then once her and I got together, I started to just cheat more often because it was like more fun with her, especially new relationship, yada yada.
Yeah.
And then eventually I just kind of finally, like, because I used to weigh out my peanut butter like tablespoon, my pre-workout, my BCAAs, like everything to the T, like my egg whites, everything. And now I'm like, that's about right. Like, so I still eat just as much, if you will, but I'm not like it's got to be exactly 10 ounces of cooked ground beef with 50 milligrams of sodium here. Like, well, no, I don't.
But is it wake up and do you eat instantly?
It depends now. I'm not like I said before. It was like exactly every day, same exact thing. Sometimes I will eat it right away. Sometimes I'll go and do fasted cardio or fasted workout. I've been enjoying that, especially if I eat more carbohydrates the day before. I feel like that's a good way to energize your body. But then it's my version of intermittent fasting because I can't just sit around and not eat. I will eat then. But if I go to the gym right away, and I have enough carbs from yesterday, you're not in a catabolic state. So because you're still having glycogen load from the day before. So sometimes I'll do that. But I mean, I still eat my first meal, whether it's before the gym or after the gym, is still usually always about a dozen egg whites. Now it's up to 4 whole eggs. And then up to a cup of oatmeal. Or I'll do like half a cup of oatmeal, and then I'll use this supplement from Fiber Nutrition called Real Carbs, like the sweet potato powder. It's amazing. And then I always have a shake post-workout, like the second I'm done. Like the last step of cardio or the last rep, it's shake right away with carbs and protein. And then I've been eating a lot more beef lately. I was doing Stand Up for Eating's vertical diet for a while, but I mean, yeah, then it's usually, about 4 meals. That's what I have downstairs. I have 4 meals. 2 of them are...
you have 4 meals here?
Yeah. Well, it's 3 now because I ate one on the car. But
so is it 8 meals in a day?
No, it's 6, sometimes 7.
And then shakes on top of that, or that's including shakes?
No, that's what the shake. I only do one shake. I usually do 1 shake a day. I try not to do more than that anymore.
But because you're doing legit real protein.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just shakes is easy and convenient, when you're struggling. And I actually feel like shakes help more if you're like in a full keto diet, just because you kind of get that sweet tooth craving crush. But no, real food is just better. It digests better, and if I'm able to do it, then I prefer to do that.
What do you think of fats instead of carbs in a diet? I've been having avocado with my breakfast instead of oatmeal.
Oh, well, I don't know if I could do that. Oatmeal's so good. I mean, but no, like when I get eggs, I get like the fancy eggs. I try to get like omega-3 eggs too, so you get healthier fats and lower cholesterol in the yolks. And that's a better fat source anyways, because avocado is great, but it's super rich in calories, and it's only omega-9s, which your body can produce on its own.
You're like a scientist.
So it's healthy fats, yeah, but you don't need those. So,
man, you're like obviously you don't just look like this by accident.
Yeah. No, it's
so you know the science behind this.
I've learned through many trial and error. So when I first started training really hard, and I wasn't getting anywhere because I was eating Cheerios later in the day, and then maybe some frozen burritos later at night, and then maybe something else, and that was it. I'm like, how come I'm not gaining size? Like, oh, maybe because I'm eating 1,000 calories at best, and it's all junk food. But so yeah, just throughout the course of time, yes, I've learned plenty of things about nutrition, diet, exercise, what works, what doesn't work, and what works for somebody doesn't mean that it'll work for you too. Everyone's their own individuality.
Does it bother you when people pull up the old photos of you looking like basically my size?
Yeah. So like I even made that Transformation Tuesday tweet like a few weeks back, whatever, because everybody pulls up that photo from like 2011, like end of 2010, the very end of 2010, and throughout most of 2011, and usually the PWG photos when I was the worst shape of my life. And I was like, man, look, if you look at my photos from like 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, now they look better at each of those years than 2011. But I steadily got better and better and better year after year after year after year. And then I would try to throw a pity party, but I'm like, yeah, man, I just gave them the rundown. I'm like, look, I was hurt, I couldn't train, I was broke, I was depressed, I wasn't eating because I couldn't afford to. I mean, it was just hard times. But then once all that turned around, then I got right back into it.
Yeah, and look at you now.
And then boom, 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 every year, just right back on track. So
was Steiner the guy that you looked up to growing up?
No, I always thought Steiner was awesome. I thought his arms were out of control. But no, I mean, as far as like body-wise, I didn't really have a whole lot of inspiration from wrestling, so to speak. Where I was like,
was it from bodybuilding?
I mean, I just knew I wanted to be in better shape. I mean, actually, because I was the biggest guy too, I was actually probably more into like a Chris Van Vliet type of physique or something.
That's a pretty good physique.
I was like, oh, he's jacked and he's huge, but he's not, gargantuan. So I didn't want to lose the athleticism. And then actually, when I even started training and put on size, my goal, I didn't even think this would be possible to get to the size. I wasn't trying to. It just kind of started to happen and go that route, and so be it. So, but because I've been wrestling and doing this the whole time while I was gaining size, that's why I'm able to still do a lot of the stuff that I'm able to do. Just because, I mean, I was just already athletic, but I was already doing stuff. And then also, I'm a wrestler that just happens to bodybuild. I'm not a bodybuilder that all of a sudden is like, oh, maybe I should be a wrestler now. So
right. Who were the people in the ring that you looked up to?
Well, so like I did love Alton Ware, and same thing. He looked like a superhero, right, as a kid. Yeah. And then Shawn Michaels and Razor were my two first like favorites. Like when I was getting a little bit older and like more to like who's actually like a good worker. And then when I wanted to be a wrestler, the three people I wanted to emulate was Canyon, Jericho, and Benoit. I said Benoit too about the physique. So those are three Chris's. If only Canyon was Canadian, that would be the Canadian Chris's. But
hey, well, I'm Chris and I'm Canadian.
I was about to say that.
Toss myself in there.
I mean,
I don't think
honorable mention.
You obviously come to these shows now. Both you and Melissa are working Impact. Take me back to the day that you guys met, and I'm going to ask her this too.
Okay. So the first time, I think we just did this recently too, not too long ago.
You're like, I better get this right. Okay.
No, so the first time it was at Lucha Underground, it was my first day, and she like walked in. Like I don't remember if she walked by a door, like just kind of looked in real quick, and instantly I was like, oh my god, who's that? She's beautiful, and I knew she wasn't. I've never seen her before, and I'm like, she's not a wrestler because I've never seen her for anywhere, and she's way too pretty to be in wrestling and not know who she was.
Right.
And then I'm like, but she's obviously here. She's doing something. And so he's like, oh, that's the ring announcer. I'm like, oh, dang. But I was taken there, and she only said I was like the only person on the set that didn't flirt with her. And I think the first time we actually like engaged was it was the two times I don't remember which one was first, but I was eating treats because as much as I like to eat food, if there's some free sweet treats around, I'm gonna be eating them. And I was eating them, and then she came.
I've been to Lucha. There was
Dude,
catering table.
The catering, the craft. Yeah. There's food everywhere.
Yeah.
In both the locker rooms, the green room,
yes.
freaking the actual catering area. And I just said, oh, she's a foodie like I am, so I'm eating it. And she comes, and she was eating it. I'm like, oh, you eat this stuff too? And I didn't think you could for how you look. I'm like, well, I don't normally, but if it's here and it's free, and it was the end of the night. I'm like, I'm not wrestling now. This is gonna get thrown away. I can't let that happen. I got to take one for the team. And then they were pulling us aside, doing like all these interview, like they're asking us all the same questions. So Melissa kind of went in. I don't know if she went in before me, then I went in after her, and they asked the same thing. And one of the questions was like, oh, who's your favorite luchadora? So I'm assuming that they would ask her, who's your favorite luchador, like one you like. And when I came back out, she was still there, and I started eating food, and I said something to her, and I go, oh, so I'm your favorite, huh? And she goes, they told you?
What?
And I go, nope, but you just did. So that was that. I was like, that's why you say 5'9", so cool. So she was low key crushing on me, I think. Yeah. But we didn't actually first hang out until sometime into season 2. I know I did talk to her a little bit here and there, and I got her like on PWG and a couple of indie bookings. But then season 2 is when we actually had our first gym date. I'm out and
your first date was at the gym.
Yeah, there was technically.
Like, we should probably do some squats.
That's even in our wedding invitation and the opening of our wedding ceremony. We talked about that with the Brian Cage, Melissa Santos gym date. And
that seems like a Brian Cage date,
right? Where you want to go? The gym. Well, usually too. Maybe I meet the girls at the gym. Like, hey, you want to go to the gym tomorrow? Like,
there's nothing worse than a gym pickup, though. Hey, you using this thing? Cool. You come here often?
Yeah, right. So that's where it started, and then just kind of slowly began. And then even then, I don't know if she'll say this, but like it was funny because like, let's be honest, like all the guys would always talk about Melissa, and they're always like, oh, sorry, don't let me take offense, but just in guy, but it was like, oh my gosh, I would totally, want to freaking be like, hey, what's up with that? But it was like, that's never gonna happen. And then it slowly was like, oh, if anyone's gonna do it, it's gonna be Cage. And I'm like, no, because even though I was into him, we were starting talking, hanging out, I really didn't think it was ever going to happen or go that route. And then it just kind of randomly did.
Wow.
And then our first weekend together was WrestleMania.
What city was it?
Dallas, 2032.
32.
Yeah, so a few months prior to us. So
that's right. Yeah. No, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and now look at you guys.
So
now
married,
and everything.
Got a little kid, on the same team elsewhere, and now we're finally doing something together. If anybody's watching the Impact product, but the fan announcer is my fiance on there, and they did some skits with us back at our home, and yada yada yada. So that was cool because the whole time at Lucha, I always wanted to do something with her. I thought it'd be so cool because not that her and I were both over, but every knew we were together, and every time, and you can hear them quite often. They still try to dome down. Every time anything happened in any of the seasons of Lucha, especially with the Phoenix storyline stuff too, they'd always start doing the Terminator clap.
Yes.
That's obvious. I remember in the season finale or Ultimate Lucha, whatever episode it was for them on season 3, when they have that match in Smarty and Mariposa, and then the kiss on top of the stairs, all the fans start chanting, "Cage is gonna kill you." Okay, so I was like, "Come on, it's right there." The fans already know, and wrestling couples are so it at the time too. I mean, they still are. I'm like, just make us together because we're really together. Fans would love it. Yeah. So, but oh well.
Omega gets the Terminator clap. How do you feel about that?
You know what's funny is everybody asks who did it first.
Yeah.
And somebody said they looked at it and said that I did, but I honestly don't know, and I didn't even know he did it. And then when it started to get more and more over, people were like, oh, made in reference to it, and I didn't know what they're talking about because I hadn't seen it. I'm like, oh, he did it? Because for the longest time, I always wanted some sort of, chant or taunt or whatever before I discus Lariat. And way back when, if anybody remembers this viral video, I used to say, "You're going to jail now," from that bus driver that uppercutted that lady.
Yeah, I was in Cleveland. I lived in Cleveland at the time.
So I was like, "You're going to jail now." So it was funny for a few months, and then people didn't get it. And I was like, "Man, I need something else." Oh, you know what'd be cool? If I did the Terminator clap right beforehand. So I don't remember when it aired, but the first day I did it was actually in the match against Taya on Lucha Underground. Right before I suplexed her through the tables, I stopped. I think they edited it out though. I stopped looking at the crowd and I started doing the clap, and they started picking up on it, and that's how it started. So
that's great though. When you put something out to a wrestling crowd, you tell instantly.
Yeah.
You know this. You know instantly if it's going to work or it's not going to work, and they obviously pick right up on that.
Yeah, but and then that's all it took the one time, and then every time I was just do.
That's so catchy.
So everybody goes, "Come on, man, that's cute." I'm like, "Hey, Kenny just does a dive. I'm an actual machine. All right. I mean, we're talking Terminators here. I'm definitely the T800. All right. Even if he's the T1000, he's an upgraded version. Everybody loves the Arnold version more. So, or maybe I'm the T559. That'd be more suitable.
Last time I talked to you, you said you would be more interested in working New Japan than a WrestleMania. How do you feel about that? A couple of years later now.
Oh, that's a good question.
Because you haven't worked either still.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Right. I was close.
Just done everything else.
And you know what, too? I almost just kind of gave up on New Japan too, because there was so many almost opportunities, and then there was just always because I worked here, because I did this, or just different reasons. They were just getting annoying. I'm like, man, whatever. Wrestle Kingdom, I still think is cooler. Especially this year's WrestleMania, in my opinion, I didn't think it was that great. This was the first year I thought there was there's okay matches, but there was no WrestleMania match, That's
maybe the Kofi, you know.
That's
Kofi
what
moment.
everybody says,
Yeah.
and I probably have to agree with that. The only thing that sucks about it was that's the only match that I knew the finish where I watched it. So my investment in that match wasn't as strong, and that always kind of makes the match seem less because you're not fully invested into it. You can't really appreciate the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, that probably was the best one. But since I knew it, I kind of tuned out a little bit throughout it. I kind of had it on in the background and just saw some of the falsies. But like, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of good matches, but I just felt like it was nothing, like holy crap. There's no like WrestleMania moments.
Well, the women's main event was pretty exciting too.
No, it was good, but even then, like I didn't think it was like. I don't know. Like I mean, you're talking about WrestleMania triple threat main event. I don't know anybody's gonna do better than Shawn, Triple H, and Michaels. I mean, that's.
Wait, Shawn, Triple H, and what?
Oh, damn. Sorry.
Wait
Shawn,
a second.
Triple H, and Benoit. Sorry,
Okay.
That was like a WWE censoring night because you can't say his name. So.
It was. You self-censored yourself there. Is there someone that you haven't worked yet that you're like really looking forward to hopefully getting the opportunity to do?
Everybody always asks my dream match, and it's always been AJ Styles. Mainly too because a prime Shawn Michaels is no longer in existence, and he doesn't work at all anyway. So that would be like the real dream match that couldn't happen would be like
Sure, if we had a time machine.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
HBK. But outside of that, it's been AJ Styles since I started wrestling. Always wanted to wrestle him.
That could possibly happen at some point in time.
Outside of that, if there's just like I mean, I know everyone wants to see me and Kenny. I'd love to wrestle Kenny. Jericho's been doing a lot of stuff. I'd love to wrestle Jericho because he's in the three Chris's. Benoit's Gonski, but I got to wrestle Canadian, so I mean 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Pretty much everyone you're talking about here is Canadian. So Kenny's Canadian.
That's true, right?
Canadian,
Well,
Jericho.
Ibushi would be awesome to work. There you go. I'll throw somebody
Okay, there we go.
some different flavor in there. But I mean, there's several talents. Obviously, that's great, and it's funny. A lot of times too, I'll forget, and I'm like, oh man, I never worked that guy. I want to work that guy. Or there's even people I have worked. I haven't worked that much. Like Jack Evans. I've only had 2 solo matches with him, but I love working Jack. I'd love to work him again. Drew McIntyre and I were supposed to have a match at PWG, and I had to cancel like right before because of stuff with my son. And I was so bummed, and we never got it again. I would love to work Drew one-on-one.
Do you think being with Melissa and being married now has changed anything for you, for better or for worse, in the wrestling world? Like, do you work safer? Do you not work? Something like anything like that?
Man, I don't really think so. Like she'll try to put her 2 cents in and educate me on stuff, or tell me what I should or shouldn't do.
Oh yeah.
And normally the higher ups here at Impact Wrestling tend to agree with what she says. So I feel like they tell her stuff to tell me because they think I'm going to have to listen to her. And whenever I don't, usually something happens, and then she's always like, see, I told you not to do that. And she's like, you didn't tell me you were going to take that Spanish Fly and the pay-per-view. Because if you would have, I said, absolutely not. And look what happened. Then you freaking crippled yourself. That was your fault. I'm like, well, I guess you're probably right.
Yeah, so. I guess you are injured here now.
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, it's been a rough year, man. The 2 biggest moments of my life and career this year, marrying Melissa Santos and winning the Impact Wrestling title, and both nights I spent in the ER right afterwards.
Oh
so,
God.
a little bit of salt on the wound there with that one.
What happened? What happened on your wedding night that sends you to the ER?
So I was off. So I was off for 5 or 6 weeks after I hurt my back. And I slowly started, doing some stuff, and I wasn't fully good to go. You always push it a little bit. I was doing all right. And then the New York tapings in June, my hip was just really stiff and acting up, and that's how it felt when I hurt my back, just because it swelled up so much, everything on the right side. I just couldn't move my hip or my leg. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? But I know I wasn't working any matches. I was just doing some spots and angles with Mike.
And going to a wedding.
And so I took a week off or so. I felt good. I had a match in Defy. My leg couldn't even move it the next day. But then the day after that, it wasn't too bad, and I eased up, and it kind of healed up again. I didn't know what was going on. I did my tour in Australia, and during the middle of the tour, after a couple of matches, I could barely walk again. I couldn't do the rest of the tour. Wow. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I got all this treatment on it, all this stuff. I had to go get an MRI. I ended up getting 3 MRIs on it because they kept on switching it around on me as far as you have to get this MRI. You have to get MRI with contrast. You need a different MRI with this frequency, with the contrast over it. It was a nightmare. So I took a couple more weeks off and did the match with Elgin because I had to, because it was the pay-per-view, and I felt pretty good. It didn't hurt really at all during the match. Later that night and the next day, it definitely did. It wasn't horrendous, but it was there. And then I had a sweet little 4-on-1 lap dance match at Bar Wrestling that I put together for my bachelor party the day before the wedding. And the match was fine, too. It was going fine. And then there's just one, actually, when I discus lariat Tessa, I just felt weird on my hip, and it just like blew up instantly. I knew it was bad, and the next day it was horrible. And then just being on my feet and moving around all day and night, it just kept on swelling. And by the end of the night, I couldn't move. I couldn't move at all. And I didn't want to go to the ER. And they kept trying to get me to go. I said, take me home. And then by the time I got home, I was in such unbearable pain. And they tried to pick me up because I couldn't stand at all. I literally had to have two big guys too, like hold underneath my arm, and I just lean into them, and they'd pull me up. And any movement still hurt, excruciating wise.
Wow.
And then they just kind of give me like a little hop, and then I base all my weight on my little leg like this, so I could try to just do like a little zombie
Oh my
drag.
God.
So to go like 15 yards, it took like 40 minutes to get in this car and then to the ER. And then they had to give me Valium, Toradol, which is a strong painkiller and anti-inflammatory, and 2 doses of morphine. And that just settled the pain, didn't even take it away. It was out of control. And then once the inflammation calmed down that morning, it was so horrible, but it was still bad. And then I tried to go to bar wrestling the next night because it was our wedding reception show. And I wasn't working anymore. I was just going to be there to do some commentary. But even just riding in a car was too much for me. I rode like not even halfway there. I said, that's it. Turn some bitch around. I'm not going to make it. Like, I can't do it. This is awful. So the wedding night and the wedding weekend, on with this shit. And I have to make that up to Melissa. And I got a surprise coming for her. But yeah, so man, it's been rough. And then they've kept me off all the Impact shows since then. I canceled a lot of bookings. I canceled Triple Mania today too. I've had to cancel the Big Defy tournament, which I was bummed about. Like, so I mean, it's part of the deal. I haven't really had to cancel. I've worked through almost every injury. So this has been the most I've tried to take time off. And then I had my little match with Steiner because I had to, but I was working Orange Cassidy and Joey Ryan, so it was a not a Mr. GMSI match. It was a little, I let Steiner get his shit in.
Well, those guys are, they're over in a completely different way.
Yes. The match still was awesome. Like, people were under the illusion that we had an amazing match, and the match still awesome.
I'm sure you did.
But in a different way.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned working Tessa, and that's kind of been like an interesting subject for a lot of people.
Yep.
How do you feel about intergender wrestling?
When people ask me that, it depends. It depends on who it is, both the guy and the girl, and the reason for it.
Okay.
I feel like it's different. And I don't know why, but I feel like it's different too when it's on TV or more national or international product as opposed to just the indie spot show. Like, I'll wrestle any chick, I'll do anything on like bar wrestling where like it's just a fun show. That crowd's amazing, but I feel like in certain avenues, it makes it. I would say risky, not risky, but it just needs to make sense. Like when I have people ask me to do intergender matches too, if they have asked me. Same thing. It depends on who it is and why as well.
That's probably the more important thing.
Rather than just watch Brian Cage come beat up this girl. Like what? But I have no problem with it or people doing it. It just again, it's those factors that make it mean more or less. So
and I think it can be done like Lucha Underground did it.
Oh, totally
great.
Well, and what worked so great with Lucha Underground was that it was already like it wasn't supposed to be real, so
it didn't exist in this realm.
Yeah. So like it was like superheroes fighting, so it didn't matter. And it's funny enough too. I think that's the only, not only my only intergender match. It was my first intergender match, and it was the only one that I was ever in where I was the baby face and not the heel. Because I almost feel like the guy almost always has to be heel, especially someone in my position.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just thought about that like a couple of days ago. I'm like, oh yeah. I was beating the crap out of Ty, but I was the face, and we loved it the whole time.
Yeah. Is Lucha Underground officially done?
Officially done? I guess not, because nothing's been. I mean, we all kind of just assume, but
right.
There hasn't been a statement. And actually, though, I think AAA's doing a show at the LA Forum here in October, excuse me, and I think the Lucha's actual parent company, the actual official name title of it, is involved with
El Rey
it.
Network?
No, not El Rey, because El Rey just owned the TV rights. They own the
Okay.
thing. But it's like Lucha, Lucha Libre FM LL or whatever the
GMSI.
the LLC thing is or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, because Melissa did some stuff with them, and then she was getting paid from them. So I think they're involved with it somehow. So I don't know. I guess technically it's not officially closed up, but I don't know I don't see anything happening.
It's still in your Instagram bio.
It is. Well, it's
and I mean
season 2 and 3. I mean, 1 was great too, but 2 and 3 was probably the most fun I've ever had in wrestling.
Oh, and it was amazing to watch as a fan.
Yeah,
too.
that was. I actually just watched the matches from those seasons during cardio today. But yeah, I don't I mean, I've done a lot of awesome stuff before then and after then, but those couple years, man, were just so much fun.
If there's someone watching this right now that's never seen a Lucha Underground match, which Brian Cage match from season 2 or 3 should they watch?
Oh man. Well, I think my favorite match on there is probably my match with Matanza, only because it was like a lot of people liked it. It was two big guys going at it, and it was like the only match that was like really raved about that wasn't, because we had a lot of extreme and hardcore stuff in Lucha, and that match was just straightforward. There was no objects or any gimmicks in the match, so I really like that one. But I mean, my whole series of Tejano I liked a lot. My matches with Willie Mack obviously are amazing. Everybody loves those. The triple threat with Crane and Mil Muertes was amazing. My whole feud with Puma in the first season was great. Like, there's so many good matches. Many good matches.
It's funny hearing the Lucha names for all those people you just said.
Right? Yeah.
You just
Johnny Mundo. We had a good.
You just
feud.
listed off Sammy Callahan, Ricochet. Who else did you list off there that has
I said Willie Mack, but Willie Mack.
Yeah. It's just so funny hearing that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I didn't say Son of Havoc, but he's in there.
Matt Cross, yeah. All right, we did this last time, and I think it's just we need to show people the difference between a man and a machine. So I work out.
Hey, you're in shape.
I'm in shape. I work out like 5 days a week, but when I flex, it's like an arm, and then when you flex, it's like going to eat my arm.
Yeah. I can do that one too. I think the right one's.
If I put it back here, it looks even smaller.
Oh yeah. When we get a little closer, you out
Thanks so much, brother.
No problem, man.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
Keep your training, man. And you get one of these tees, maybe kind of okay size.
Yeah.
Effing arms.
Like slightly above average.
Yeah.
Remember above average Mike Sanders?
Yes.
Yeah, in WCW?
Yes.
That could be me.
That could be you.
Yeah. Slightly above average
The
arms.
Canadian Chris version.
The Canadian Chris. All right, well, now we're backstage with the machine. Thank
got
you.
the huge fucking arms, but still.
There they are. You asked me, what are you doing out here in California? The answer is, truthfully, I came out here to interview you.
I didn't believe it.
But it's true. So I came out here to interview you, your lovely wife. I interviewed Jimmy Jacobs. I interviewed Ethan Page. And tomorrow I'm interviewing Alex Riley. But all because of you.
Oh, you know what? Ask Alex Riley, why in the world would he punch me in the stomach when he has a broken wrist? No joke. Here, a little story real quick. Story time for him.
Okay.
FCW. Brian Case. Yo, gotta get his shit in. My name was Chris Logan then, though.
Yeah.
Chris Logan versus...
He was Alex Riley, isn't he?
No, I think it was before, but it doesn't matter. We'll just say it's Alex Riley.
Okay.
I think it was something else. But we do this deal, and he goes, he wants to do a leg drop off the top rope. And I go, or no, the second rope. I go, second rope? And he goes, it sucks, huh? And he goes, no, let's do a leg drop off the top. I go, can you do that? And he goes, yeah, I'll be fine. So he does it. The way he's selling it, and he's moving around, I'm like, is he hurt? Is he hurt?
Look at this.
Check on him, ref. And he goes, he says he's good. I'm like, okay. So I get up, we start bumping, feeding, throwing the comeback down. Boom, boom, falsy. I hear him go like, I broke my wrist is broken. And I go, what? Why didn't you tell me? You said you were good. And then so like I missed something, and I sell to the corner, and I'm like, all right, well just come get me and like put your feet on the ropes and pin me or whatever, because you're supposed to go over. So instead, he comes over as I'm selling up in the corner, and he punches me with this broken wrist, and it's gnarly broken too. Broken wrist in the stomach, like shoot punch, and he goes, ah! He falls over, and so I just laid on him and pinned him for punching me in the stomach.
Well, there's a great story about Alex Riley.
Yes,
We're going to link up to the other Brian Cage interview right here. And then you saw a preview of what my next interview is going to be. Your lovely wife,
yes.
Melissa Santos, just
With
walked
the
by.
little pink outfit thing.
Well, hey, I'm not looking. I'm just making eye contact the whole time.